we caught up with a few international experts in the field of education, jobs and careers to understand some of the global best practices and the shifts we see around us in terms of careers. First, we spoke to Bettina Schaller. Bettina is the President, World Employment Confederation, Belgium. It's an advocacy organization for jobs and for industries. And Bettina talked about a very important aspect, which is how globally there's a change in the nature of the employment contract towards more flexible contracts, and also the aspect that generative AI can bring in some of the recruitment processes and what that means.
The world is completely different when it comes to work. There are a series of trends. Let me pick up on the one piece. Obviously, I have to mention the element of remote, right? In our days, people just want to have this possibility to choose where they work, but also how they work. So in a way, the biggest shift is around flexibility in general. And it's flexibility, again, not only where you work, not only how long you work, but also in the type of contract that you want to have. People are realizing that, of course, it's important to have security and to have a contract with an employer, but many people are also looking to work in flexible forms of contract, either as a self-employed or for platforms. And therefore, we see that there is a rising number of people who are in what we call diverse forms of work.
One question that I would like to ask is, what about the job prospects? What kind of jobs do you think going forward will be more in demand? And how should people prepare for those kind of jobs?
Yeah.
And do you think because of the AI, what sort of jobs are going to get out of, they're going to get old and they're going to be not any more useful?
Yeah. Well, this is the moment where...
create job loss also, that's a big...
Oh, absolutely. No. And I mean, if I now say, well, accountants should maybe watch out, or certain legal professions, they will not be happy if they hear this. But, it is a fact. There's a few jobs that will be automated quicker. Overall, every industry, every sector is going to see the impact of automation. Then there's going to be, in every industry, some roles that are going to be revised. And some people who, if they don't adjust, who will have to move on. So if you ask me on the skills, it's clear, absolutely, that digital skills at all levels of expertise are the baseline going forward in terms of that baggage that you need to take forward. And that's why countries have to immediately look at their education systems. Academic institutions have to immediately make sure that they connect the digital aspects and the AI aspects of what they're teaching to the curriculum. Anything that has to do with greening of the economy will also be very future-proof. And lastly, I would say, if I generalize, anything that has to do with care and with health care, but also care of the elderly, will also be an industry where a lot of people are going to be needed. And so if you're looking to hone some skills independently of the age, because you can and upskill, probably that mixture of healthcare, digital and technology, there you're going to be in the perfect sweet spot.
We also caught up with Bruce Dowton. Bruce is the Vice-Chancellor and President, Macquarie University, Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. And this again is an interesting conversation where he speaks about Australian universities, and especially in research and postgraduate programs, what they look for when Indian candidates or Indian students apply there. Not just that, he also talks to us about the liberal arts and the liberal arts degrees, what that adds in terms of skills in our careers and in our education.
Let's talk about a bit about the Indian student. Australia has always been a place where Indian students would like to go and work, apart from Canada, which has also come out. So, if somebody wants to, especially join this University of Law, what are the key things tips that you would like to give them so that they get the entrance into this university?
So certainly high performance during their school days, really applying themselves to be able to get the marks. Many Australian universities are competitive institutions, as mine is, to get into. And so it's based around performance across their entire educational career. We accept students as postgraduate coursework students, as well as research students as well. So in that case, it's their experience as an undergraduate student or their experience in research they might have had here in an Indian institution, which will help to get them over that bar.
I'd like to ask you, what type of jobs and skills do you think going forward next 5 to 10 years are going to be in demand, and what kind of jobs are now obsolete in your
Yes. Well, I think the jobs and skills being required is changing very quickly. I think we do have to be careful, though. Certainly, there's a lot of demand for jobs and skills in the technology, sciences, engineering, computer science fields. But what we're also hearing as a university, as Macquarie University, from employers, is that they also very much want students who have a set of generic capabilities. They can work in a team, they can reason an argument, they can write well, they are numerate, they can do analytical reasoning. So pure focus on the STEM fields is not going to be enough. We also have to focus on how we encourage students in these other generic areas. But there's also a very strong place, I think, and we hear this from employers, to have the humanities, arts and social sciences also be a key part of education going forwards.
Finally, we caught up with Renate Hornung-Draus. Renate is the MD for Economic and International Affairs for Confederation of German Employers, and they represent employers across sectors. Renate spoke to us about two things. The first is an interesting learning because Germany has already been working on this dual apprenticeship program model, which is industry linked as well as with university degrees. And there are obviously best practices and learnings from both sides as we also now look at the national apprenticeship model in India and what that means for our students and our professionals. Renate also speaks to us about the fact that given Germany has a declining demographic dividend, for people who are looking for jobs there, what could be the ways in which they could fine-tune their process and look for opportunities there?
Thank you, Renate, for talking to ET Online. In terms of types of employment that there have been, what kind of changes have you seen in the last 5-10 years, and especially pre-COVID and post-COVID?
What we see is that, of course, the digital skills are becoming more and more important. But we also see that basic skills, reading, writing, logical thinking, are very, very important, and they must not be neglected in the general education. So our companies in Germany have a long tradition of contributing to the vocational education of young people through our dual vocational apprenticeship system, which means that young people, when they come out of general school, will undergo a training in a vocational education, which means basically half the time in the company with an apprenticeship contract and half the time split in a professional school so that they get the theoretical knowledge. And this is a tradition which has proven extremely useful to make sure that changes in the world of work are actually reflected in the curricula and in the skills of the young people coming onto the labor market. And I also see the willingness of young people, of all the Indians, to really move forward and to develop. That's fantastic. And I hope that some of them will decide to come and work in Germany, because we have a declining demography. You have a growing demography with a very young population. And we could have a win-win situation there with people moving to Germany and then coming back later to India and establishing economic cooperation between our two countries.
Interesting that you put that point here. So what should young people do to get employment in Germany? What is if there are certain tips, because you are in the organization that takes care of the employment, so what are the certain tips that you'd like to give them?
We're working at that. Well, they should get good skills. Maybe they should learn some German, and they should get in touch with us and with a German-Indian Chamber of Commerce, where we are running very concrete programs for people with different skills. So there are lots of opportunities, and we should just take them and implement them.